Ladies and gentlemen, behold the outcast, the creepy and depraved, the bizarre creations not meant for the normal world. Embrace the twisted weirdness of freak show cinema.
When we think of the classic film Wizard of Oz, many of us think of the bright colors, innocent characters, and timeless songs. But many of us also remember how scary it could be. The Wicked Witch, flying monkeys, it freaking opens with a woman getting squashed by a house. Nevertheless, the darker moments didn't take over the majority of the film. That's where Return to Oz comes in. Released by Disney in 1985, seeing how they bought the film rights to the rest of the Oz books, Return to Oz bombed hard at the box office, scared the shit out of most children who saw it, and, in my opinion, is goddamn great. I've talked about this movie a lot, but never went into great detail about why I think it's so wonderful. Well, we're finally gonna give this creepy as shit masterpiece the closer look it deserves. First off, the film is a kinda sequel to the original, though saying it's based more on the continuing stories of the books, of which this is a combo of the second and third parts, Marvelous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz. Though they wanted to be different from the first film, there were two elements they kept. One was the people in the real world being represented in the fantasy world, and the other was the ruby slippers, which they had to pay MGM a fee to use because in the book, they were silver. But in an Oz movie, that just didn't sound right.
My ruby slipper!
No. My ruby slippers.
Farousa Balk played Dorothy in her first performance, and she is 100% believable in this role, and very easy to relate to.
Remember how we spoke?
Not to talk about Oz.
Why?
'Cause it's just my imagination.
Whether she's curious, caring, or, as in the majority of the film, terrified as hell, you're always right along with her. It's nice too they actually got someone closer to the age of Dorothy as opposed to a 17-year-old playing a 7-year-old. Which worked fine in that environment, but in this film that'd be a little too distracting. Though there is one line where I swear she channeled her inner Garland.
No, Bellina, you don't understand.
Didn't that sound just like her?
No, Bellina, you don't understand.
The setup is about as dark and twisted as you can get, even before she's taken to the scary fantasy world. Dorothy's family is concerned because she still thinks she traveled to a magical world after she got hit on the head. Concerned for her well-being, they take her to a doctor who recommends this medical breakthrough that'll fix her right up. Shock therapy. Don't worry though, it has a smiley face on it.
Now this fella here has a face. Here are his eyes, and this must be his nose, and this must be his mouth.
Yeah, bet you didn't think there'd be One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest representation here. Look at this, it's like something out of a Frankenstein flick. This is one of the first times I was ever taught as a child, maybe adults don't always have your best interest in mind. Honestly, I make a strong argument this was doing American McGee's Alice before American McGee was. It does have kind of a similar idea and does hit some of the same notes, just with less knife stabbing. And you know if this wasn't a Disney film, they'd allow that. The power goes out though, and one of the patients helps her escape, leading her to the river where she gets knocked out. When she wakes up, she's in Oz, and even discovers her pet chicken on the farm can talk now. By the way, I'm not sure how many live-action talking chickens I've seen, but I'll go out on a limb and say this is the most convincing one.
Oh, I've never been so wet in my whole life.
Whoa, too much information.
Just kidding.
So okay, no more of that haunting imagery. We're in the land of yellow brick roads and emerald cities, and nope, everyone's dead. Ah!
It's a Tin Woodsman. Oh, Tin Woodsman, what's happened to you? What's happened to everybody?
All her friends are turned to stone or even decapitated, and the kingdom is filled with what many consider the scariest part of the film.
Beware the Wheelers.
Come here.
So, kinda torn on these characters. On the one hand, yeah, they're pretty freaky. Everything from how they talk, to how they move, to how they're weirdly shaped is wonderfully unnatural. But for a film that's relatively timeless, this is the only part that feels specifically 80s. Now you know me, you know I love my 80s awareness, but these things look like they went through a Billy Idol car wash. They don't seem to match the type of creepy that the rest of the film has. But I don't know, they get kids to shit their pants, so I can't complain.
What is it?
I don't know.
Dorothy does discover some friends though. A robot named TikTok, played by Howard the Duck, and Admiral Akbar. You just became my new favorite character.
I am Tic-Tac, the Royal Army of Oz.
Jack Pumpkinhead, who is looking for his mother, and when he can't find her, asks Dorothy if she can be his mother.
May I call you Mom, even if it isn't so?
That's almost ewy, but works just enough. And Gump, a creature made from random things and brought to life by magic dust. I kinda love how excited this thing is just to suddenly be alive.
Can you flap your wings?
I don't have any wings.
Now we get the
My gosh, you're right, I do.
Though with that voice and being animatronic, I do kinda wanna hear him sing the Haunted Mansion song out of nowhere.
When the crypt doors creak and the tombstones quake.
They go up against a pair of foes called the Gnome King and Mombi, who took over Oz from the Scarecrow and another magical being called Ozma. Both of them are menacing in their own way. The Gnome King is more friendly, slowly luring into a false sense of security. Why? Because it gives him the giggles.
Why didn't you just transform them all right away?
It's more fun this way.
That's why this actor is my favorite Merlin. Mombi is the opposite. She's an angry, screaming psychopath who treats the Wheelers like pets. And remember those headless statues? They were once human, and she holds onto their heads, switching them out depending on her mood. This is some freaky ass shit.
What do you think?
I think you're very beautiful.
I should hope so.
She plans to take Dorothy's head too once she grows older, so she locks her in a room until she decides to chop it off. By God, this movie is wonderfully sick. Oh, but you think that's scary? That's nothing compared to when she escapes. She has to sneak into Mombi's room to get something out of there, and it leads to the second scariest scene next to the Wheelers, if not the scariest scene. Hot toasted God! This is right out of a nightmare, or if not, it will be after it's bulldozed into your nightmares. Parents may need to put on critters in order to calm them down. After they escape, they make their way to the Gnome King, who uses his rock minions, mainly stop motion, to capture them and, as mentioned before, essentially dick around with them.
You can go and inspect my ornament collection. Each of them has 3 counselors.
He says he'll give back the Scarecrow and all their friends if they can guess what random ornament he was turned into. It's pretty twisted because they're given no clues. They'll turn into ornaments themselves if they guess wrong, and they have to go in one by one. Every time one is called, it's like they're marching to their death, and this takes over the majority of the third act.
Be careful, Jack.
Being an ornament will probably be hardest on you, Dorothy, since you're used to eating and sleeping and other such activities.
But the Gnome King is almost nice to them. Like he realizes he's being a heartless bastard, so he might as well make their final moments kind of pleasant.
No. Don't cry. I didn't realize he meant so much to you.
It's such a feeling of dread that truly mirrors the Doctor in the real world, which, like I said, is played by the same actor.
Oz!
Dorothy!
When Dorothy does guess the right one. Yeah, I'm not sure I followed if this was a lucky guess or if something led her to the right path. The Gnome King goes nuts and, well, everything goes to hell. Literally, I think we are literally sent to hell. How many times can you just say, oh my God, to something? The climax is nothing but stop-motion monsters trying to eat them and people screaming at the top of their lungs. I refer you back to oh my God. As you put together, this is the complete WTF collection, holding back very little when it comes to scaring kids. Oh, I forgot to mention, one of the Wheelers is turned into a sand sculpture and breaks to pieces. Screw the children, the adults are gonna have nightmares from this! So you might be wondering, why the hell would I want my children to watch this? It looks like the most terrifying kids film I could show them. Well, A, it's the most terrifying kids film you could show them. I mean, come on, that has to count for something. And B, well, we'll go into that after this. So okay, you've heard me flip-flop in the past, saying some dark kids movies are too dark and others need to be darker. So what is it that separates something from being pointlessly mean and something being justifiably mean? Well, the answer is pretty simple: the characters. If there are charming, sympathetic, interesting characters that can pull you through all this misery, then in my opinion, it balances things out. These folks are simple, but they're disgustingly likable. Dorothy is so good at being concerned, but standing up for what she thinks is right, even if she and her friends both figuratively and literally don't have a leg to stand on.
When we are here with our army to conquer you and force you to give it back.
You already sympathize with where she's coming from. You know she believes Oz is real, and we as the audience know, or at the very least, want to believe Oz is real. She's relentlessly kind to anyone who treats her like a friend. I especially love it when Jack causes their flight to fall apart, plummeting them to the ground. Even as they fall to their deaths, she still tells Jack not to feel bad about it.
Sorry, Mom.
It's all right, Jack! It can't be helped now!
It is impossible not to have your heart warmed by that. TikTok. Oh yeah, I missed that joke earlier, very clever. Is probably the smartest of the group, but even he's not that brilliant to mind. He's the bodyguard. He only uses logic and deduction because he's a machine. In fact, sometimes when he uses it, it's kind of depressing.
TikTok's not even alive.
I have always valued my lifelessness.
Well, okay, but can't you cry when you say that or something? Oh my god, that's so much worse. Don't cry, don't cry! I also like, despite his strength, there's some things he can't do, like he can't wind himself up so he'll shut off, or he has trouble getting up. Maybe that way too. Jack is basically more of a lost child than Dorothy is. You can tell he misses his mother so bad that he'll accept any kind person as a replacement. You feel how scared he is to face the world without someone who's been around him his whole life. Despite that, he's still incredibly curious, kind, and yes, dim-witted, but in a way that makes sense. He literally hasn't seen any of the world.
I've been alive such a short while, and I'm afraid of spoiling before I've seen anything of the world.
And Gump, it's got a funny voice.
I may not last very long. I don't feel too well put together.
Okay, yeah, so he's not in this very long or even alive that long, but there is even kind of a charm to that. He talks about how excited he is just to exist, and in a strange way, even that's kind of relatable. You enjoy how much he loves anything new because it's his first time seeing it. He doesn't talk in great detail about it. If anything, his lines are very short, but content. He's a very content character, and that does make him very likable.
That was a novel experience, wasn't it?
None of these characters are super smart, super skilled, or super powerful. If anything, they have a buttload of weaknesses. But that's what makes their journey all the more engaging. The world is stacked against them. Everything is horrifying. The monsters have taken over their home. Yet together, they still succeed because of the simple strength of kindness. They work off each other and play to the few strengths that they have. It's nothing that new or mind-blowing, but we like them enough to root for them. Which means when they survive something really scary, it feels like a big accomplishment. If Blade was in this predicament, I wouldn't be afraid. He'd have their asses chopped up in seconds. He belongs fighting vampires and shit like that. But for this group of characters, these are the perfect obstacles for them to overcome. Even more so because of how threatening they are. So yes, even though I joke about how kids' films need to be tougher, there still needs to be a relatable heart at the center. Remember too, this movie was rated PG at a time when that actually meant you should have parental guidance. This has the same rating as Raiders of the Lost Ark. Think about that. I'm not gonna act like every kid would like this, but it's worth showing if you feel like this is something they can handle. There's so much creativity, so much charm, and yes, so much intensity that makes the adventure so exciting. And it's a shame the director of this never went on to direct anything else aside from a Clone Wars episode, because I think he made something that was really unique and imaginative. Don't feel too bad for him though, it sounds like he's had a great career in both sound and editing. On top of that, it sounds like it was a pretty rough production. He was even let go at one point because everyone was so unhappy with how things were going. I'm glad he was brought back though, because I really think he made something timeless, creative, and terrifying as hell. This film has been growing a cult following over the years, and the more people I show it to, the more fans it makes. I adore movies like this that don't talk down to kids, that try to make their characters relatable instead of cool, and try to connect more to what's timeless rather than what's popular at the time. The effects are great, the designs are great, the story is great, the acting is great. When you add all that up, you get a great movie. I don't care if it's dark, it's the best kind of dark. The kind of dark that challenges your kids but rewards them with amazing imagination and creativity. Whether you're a kid or an adult, this is an awesome movie to check out. So much love and effort clearly went into making this look as detailed as possible, while making these impossible worlds and creatures come to life. Like I said, I can't pretend every kid will like it, but I think it's worth showing just in case they do. If they don't like it, nothing major is lost, but if they do, they may find a classic they'll remember for the rest of their days. No, it's not the original Wizard of Oz, but let's face it, it's a lot of the best parts. I'm a nostalgia critic. Wait a minute. Next month is March. You know what that means? Dark Knight Month! I was born in the Dark Knight Month.
That was a novel experience, wasn't it?